Okay, good evening. This is the August 4th, 2021 meeting of the Town Administrator Screening Committee. The meeting is being cablecast by Area 58 Community Access Media, Channel 15, and will be posted by Area 58 on YouTube as soon as possible. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first thing on tonight's agenda is to go into executive session. So I make a motion that we adjourn into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A8, to review resume and qualifications of new candidates as part of the preliminary screening process for the appointment of a permanent town administrator, in that the chair declares that an open meeting will have a detrimental effect in obtaining qualified applicants and we will return to open session.
I'll second.
Can I make a suggestion? Is it possible that we move this to the end of the agenda and get the open session stuff out of the way now? That way Area 58 can...
I wanted to do it and get it over with, because then they'll have, we'll never...
That way they can be done and go home.
I guess I don't really care if we don't,
It's just a suggestion.
I don't know that, well, because it's, the executive session is supposed to be coming first according to the agenda.
Yeah, you can change the order of the agenda as long as you're not adding new agendas.
Yeah,
It's all the time.
It'll be like 2 minutes. It won't be long.
Yeah, it won't be long,
Okay.
okay? All right, so we're in executive session. Like I said, this should be quick.
Needs a roll call, he's nervous.
Okay, so we're back in open session, having completed the executive session. The next thing on the agenda is a discussion on background checks. As we know, we had one withdrawal. We've had one of the people we agreed to interview, send back their background check. However, there was one that has not yet. What I proposed to do, and we did follow up today, HR did follow up today with that individual and say that we had a tight time frame and asked for a response. This is just the release to go ahead within 48 hours. And on everyone that we've voted that we will interview, they'll get something on background checks, probably tomorrow. And any questions on background checks or anything?
Nope.
Yes, Pat?
Do we have a requirement that a background check be done before an interview? Or can we do the interview before the background check?
Well, I was going to hold that until we got discussion of interview scheduling, but we can do that here as well. I would say that we don't have that requirement, certainly.
Okay.
And it's going to kind of depend on when I'll get into something else now because it'll be pertinent to that, when the next meeting is going to be. Because next week, we have 2 nights that Shelby is not available. Pat is out for the whole week, Mary is out for the whole week, and Adam is out for half the week.
I'm out for the week.
All right, so I'm not even sure we have a quorum.
It's just not acceptable.
So, and you're out for the week, I didn't know that. So I would like to, who can be here next Thursday night?
I could be, but
I can.
You can, I can, so that's 3.
Pat.
Walter.
Thursday, I could
Next Thursday?
Not the greatest.
Or the
Wednesday
week
would be better,
after.
I don't think.
But
Adam-
Wednesday, we can't have Shelby, so I want to
but.
do
Oh,
it.
gotcha. Okay. I could make Thursday work.
So if you can make it, we can get 5.
You talking Thursday, the 12th?
Yes.
Okay, I can't do that.
You're away the week.
Excuse me?
You said you were away the whole week.
I said I can't do that. I can zoom in.
Oh, zooming in you're
Difference,
talking about, okay.
I can
So
gladly bring the laptop. We can establish a Zoom link.
we can do that if you want, but right now, we'll just worry about, we've got 5, okay? So
Adam
we,
can make it.
No.
no, we have 5 with Walter, Craig, myself, you, and Jennifer.
Okay.
And so we can have a meeting next Thursday night.
Okay.
And that's the day before the time to get in application closes, next Friday. So we'll deal with any applications as far as the quote, the type of vote we just took Thursday night, any that we have left. And I did get one more in this afternoon that I haven't even had a chance to take a printout or anything like that. So we're gonna have at least one. And at that point, we'll have had a time to see who has returned their background checks. And we'll decide there on who we interview finally. If we make any changes to who we're gonna interview based on having received or not having received any background checks, and we'll do that Thursday night. And we'll schedule them over the next 2 weeks after that, which brings us right up to our deadline of getting something to the selectmen by the 1st. Yes, Pat.
If a candidate does not return the background check request by the deadline, are they eliminated?
Let me see, so you're talking, the deadline,
Somebody has a deadline of.
in other words, we ask it
Yes.
for it within 48 hours and they don't get it for it to us?
Let's say somebody's got a deadline of this Friday to return the okay to do a background check.
Right.
If they have not forwarded that, what's the recourse?
Well, I wouldn't say that if they, for example, do get it in the next day, I wouldn't say you would then rule them out. However, if you never get it back, you definitely would rule them out.
Like we had one guy that withdrew.
I know that.
That's not unusual. And if somebody else doesn't withdraw but doesn't return
Again,
the document that they were told was very important and we need it by a certain date, are they still a viable applicant?
we'll decide when and if that happens.
Okay.
Couldn't the
Okay.
committee vote on that? I guess the committee could have a say in that
Yeah,
at some
yeah,
point.
exactly. Although I don't think that if someone's supposed to have it in by Friday, it being the vacation season and everything, and they got it in on Monday, I think that would be,
Yeah, I don't think that's what Pat's saying.
I think if they're interested in the job, they
that's
do.
exactly what he's saying.
And that's the way I look at it. That's the way I always
Yeah,
looked at it.
I
You're
agree.
interested in it, you do it. You're on vacation, if you're not, on the other side of the world or something, if you're vacationing on the Cape or something, you come in for your interview. You do these things, if you're interested. If you're not interested, you don't.
So we'll decide if we have that issue. All right, we don't at this point. And the ones that will go out tomorrow, because there's only been 2 that went out and 1 came back, and the way it went out, the wording was, at your earliest convenience type thing, which you still would think would have been enough. And now you get a follow-up of now would need this within 48 hours. I think if you don't get something back now, then that's a good reason that possibly you do eliminate that person.
Okay.
All right? But if they call next Tuesday and say, I just got out of the hospital and I haven't been checking my email, then you might give them some, you gotta be a little flexible.
You might give a little consideration.
Right. Things do happen. Okay, so we're gonna have the next meeting Thursday. We do have an agenda, and we can set it up so you can zoom in too,
Yeah.
if you really wanna do that on your vacation. And,
What time do we want to do that meeting at, John?
Well, you're usually the last one that has commitments. Is 6 okay? I'd do it earlier if we could.
I can, on next Thursday, I could, no, I think it has to be 6. Sorry.
Okay, 6 is fine. All right, so that's, anything else on background checks and interview scheduling?
So it's at 6 PM?
But it'll be 6 PM Thursday, and the intent then will be to finally determine, you know, if we're gonna interview everyone that we said we are, see what background checks may or may not change, any of that, and then to schedule them over the last 2 weeks, 2 full weeks of August, so that we're in a position to give the selectmen their list as they requested by September 1st.
Pat, would you let me know if you want to join us via Zoom, and I'll set up the link
I will, thank you.
if you change your mind, but let me know in time so I
I'm
can,
sure I'm
I
going
won't
to.
bother setting it up until like Tuesday or so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the next thing on the agenda, which is the core questions. You know, we got these sample questions from HR, and then Craig was good enough, Chief Weston, was good enough to take those, and he had gone through them and done some work on them. And he's added some questions that, from a public safety point of view. And Adam sent me a couple of questions that he proposes as well. And I would like to add one. But I think there's a lot of, on these questions, there's a lot of redundancy, and you're gonna have a situation where you may ask someone question 5, for example, can you tell us a little bit about your personal work style, things like adaptability, workload management, how you're organized to get work done on time, and then it'll essentially probably answer 3 or 4 others as well. But leaving them all here, and, you know, even redundancy is a good opportunity to spot inconsistencies in an answer or whatever from an applicant. So how do you think we should best review these?
I'd leave them the way they are and let the individual interviews, which will be done in executive session, if you think that there's a question here that does not apply to this candidate, you can skip over it. If you think that there's a question that is answered, and in his answer, he answered the next 4.
That's right.
Then we can most likely skip over that. There may
Well-
also be some questions that are gonna be pertinent only to his resume. And I think we need to have some built-in flexibility for that.
Okay, the question that what I want to ask is, it's not even a question, I just, questions specific to the applicant's resume, employment gaps, reasons for leaving positions, things like this. I want that to be there somewhere.
Yeah, I like it.
I think that,
It has to be.
I agree, we should add like something at the end that just says, you know, applicant specific
Right,
as, you know, as comes up, you know, because it could also be in an answer to one of their questions, it might raise something else where we want them to go into more depth, or we want to ask for more
Right.
clarification, so, yeah, sort of like a generic
Catch-all question.
catch-all,
Yeah,
yes.
yep.
and I would just add Adam's questions on, I think they are, when compared to some of the others, I think they're very similar to some others, and
Could you-
we'll add them on, Brett, since he's not here to
Could you
read.
read Adam's questions? We don't have access to them, so.
Yeah, I didn't, I
okay.
just got them this morning. Please describe your approach to completing all your day-to-day tasks in a typical week. Explain each day individually, taking into consideration the following meeting schedule. Monday, school committee meeting, 6 PM. Tuesday, select board meeting, 7 PM. Thursday, finance committee meeting. That's question 1. Question 2, as town administrator, you'll consistently manage and collaborate with department heads and town staff, setting proper expectations while addressing individual concerns, needs, emergencies, etc. In addition, you'll work closely with citizens on similar issues with conflicting motivations and desired outcomes. How would you resolve challenges where the department head and taxpayer interest are in direct conflict with each other? What interest carries more weight? So those were the two questions that, and several of those are similar to questions in here as well, I think. But I think just add them to the list.
I'm okay
And,
with adding them.
yeah.
Fine.
Yes, Pat?
I had one thought, I didn't write it down or send it to you, I could, I suppose, but one question that I thought of was, as a town administrator, and you've got various department heads or directors reporting to you, and you have a project that needs to get done, and you've explained that it gets done in a particular fashion, and that department head or director says, I'm not gonna do it that way, I'm gonna do it another way. Such as, we've got a grounds project or DPW project, taking trucks and equipment necessary. And the town administrator is directing, it should be done this way, and the head of the DPW says, no, I'm doing it this way. How do you resolve that?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think there's some in here that are close to that.
Yeah, question 17 is kind of would cover that in a slightly more generic way.
Right, yeah, question 17 being describe your management style working with select board, commissions, department heads, town employees, school administration, school committee. Why do you think your style works? What management style do you employ in emergency and stressful situations? And what kind of feedback do you, you know, it
We
can
could maybe
build
add
onto that.
We could add a C to that just says, how would you resolve conflict when there's a difference of opinion or?
Yeah, if you got a
Well,
conflict.
you have something that asks a
Get
simple
that, Craig?
question in number 4,
You could
In 94?
in 4.
Oh, in 4, I was like, 94, there's not 94.
maybe resolve conflict between a department head and your approach.
Yeah.
So how would you resolve a conflict between a department head and your approach in a town?
On a project.
On a-
Yeah,
Yeah, with, or a difference of opinion, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And it really, I don't think we're gonna end up asking certainly all of these, because I think one question does. And I don't know how we want to approach these. We can talk about this, well, we can talk about it now. Whether, I mean, everyone's gonna ask so many, or how we're gonna do that, whether we're going to designate certain people to take the lead on them, and with people jumping in, or whatever. I don't, I mean, it's,
I think we just barrage them with as many questions as we can and see who can handle them.
yeah, don't let them answer, read them all, and then just see how they can remember.
Should we go, you know, just a thought, should we just go around the room and take them in an order? And it would be up to that person when they came to, you know, whatever question I was supposed to ask, I could either skip it or go to the next one. You know, I mean.
Could do that.
I just decided to skip it, and then we could always follow back at the end going, you know,
And
you might see that I
anyone-
skipped one, and you say, I really want to ask that at the end, and go back and ask it or something.
And once someone asks something, and if someone has a question about their answer, they can jump in and ask for an elaboration and stuff.
Oh, okay. I mean, I just think you gotta somehow go in a logical, and I'm not
Exactly.
saying this is the order, I just put them in the, but we start at number 1, and we might go 1, and you might skip 2 and go to 3. I'm probably asked the first ones to get started, but,
Right.
and then we, at the end, we each keep a tally, and maybe we wanna go back and ask number 3 or 4, and, you know, we might
You might,
skip down,
probably,
skip 8 of
maybe
them.
we can take this and even space it out more, so you get a little more room to write between them.
Okay,
Something that we're gonna have in front of us when we sit down, so you can take notes.
Yeah.
Actually give the applicant a copy of this when he sits down, so he has something to look at, so in case he doesn't understand what you've asked him, it's there in black and white.
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
And we get the copy back, I mean, he's not gonna get a preview of it, but he'll have it, he or she will have it when they
Read
sit.
along with us. I think
I don't know.
this
I don't
order
know,
is
but-
fairly, it flows fairly well, and I think the additional questions, both by Chief Weston and by Adam, could be inserted in appropriate places, you know, so that
Right.
they're grouped with other.
yeah, I just left them at the end, so you'd know that there were additions, you know, and they were just, that's really it, if you,
Yeah,
If you want,
I've
during the
never
week.
given anyone my interview questions, an applicant.
But I could certainly move them into a spot
And I'd
of,
like to see
A better
that,
spot.
I'd be very content with
I'd
the
like to,
chair.
I'd like to be, have them hear the question and see their response, rather than,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah, that's
but
fine.
it's my thought.
I think that I'd like to see the chair and with the chair's permission, perhaps Craig, just put these together in the order you think they should go in, and that's the way we'll do it.
Yeah.
I don't have a big problem with,
That's fine with me. I mean,
obviously,
Craig's done a lot of
question
work
number
on
one's
this.
gonna be question number one, because that's the way it looks,
yeah,
but,
we can do it.
you know, number 9 may not exactly be in the 9th position, and I'd like to see, you've got a tremendous amount of experience doing this, Tom, and Craig, this isn't your first day on the rodeo either, so I'd like to see the two of you put this together, and just come up with the order that you wanna do it in, and I don't have a
Okay.
problem with you reading all the questions off and let the applicant answer them. If we have a question for it, it's probably a little less confusing. I know in the interviews for finance director, Elaine read the questions. And then if anybody had a question or a comment, then, you know, after she asked the question and got the answer, then we jumped in and, but it kept one person just focused on keeping track of
I
everything.
have no problem with that
So
either.
I have no problem
I
with
don't
that.
know.
However you wanna do it,
With
it's
that.
fine with me.
I have no problem with just one person reading off the questions too.
We can do, we
Well,
can do
maybe,
follow-ups.
maybe we've got like 33 questions, maybe we can split it up. Maybe, you know,
Okay.
Sure.
you and I, or, you know,
Sure.
whatever, you know,
Happy reading questions.
yeah, if we can,
Okay, that's fine.
Project my voice.
But I'd be happy to have you just put them in the order that you want.
Well,
You
that's-
think your experience would dictate, you think you would work. And you could even have Pat give a hand with that, because this isn't your first day at the rodeo either.
right, yeah, that'd be,
And I'd be
That'd be
fine with
good.
that.
And again, I don't know if that needs a vote or not, but I have no problem doing that and adding some spaces, as long as you could send me Adam's questions.
yes.
And I could add them.
I'll do
I think I
that.
got the gist of your question, and we'll
Thank
we'll
you.
try to put something in there to that effect.
I assume we'll have some kind of a scoring method, similar to what we did with the resumes, where we'll have some kind of a scoring sheet that, as they answer a question, we can make a little note or something like that. Or we could come in with, you know, if we had 5 interviews, we could bring in 5 sets of questions.
I think that's the.
And that would have their name on it and attached to that resume, and then we could have like the space between them, we could make little notes and stuff like that.
So what are you talking about, voting now after the interviews are over? On
Yeah.
who you're gonna put
Well,
on
I
the
think,
list?
no, for us to keep score,
Oh, okay,
so I think that would be just for us to have, if we had 5 interviews scheduled,
Yep.
then we have 5 sets of questions, they would go with each individual resume, and then we can make notes and scribble all over that set
Yes.
of questions that applies to this resume.
right. And I think we'll schedule these over, like I said, a 2-week period, you know what I mean? They'll all be in the evening, and right now, we're looking at a manageable number in 2 weeks, and if it gets away from us, then we'll
Get-
figure out something.
Hopefully we don't
Whether
run
we
out
have a
of
Saturday session or what.
Just for some clarification, when we develop this, so I'll put spaces between it. I'll have
Enough so that you get
a
people.
comment, like a comment section for us to write,
Yep,
us to write comments.
Yeah,
No type of scoring system, anything like that right now. I mean,
No,
I'm not trying to
no.
ask anything, just so comments.
nope,
We
just
can make our
interview
comments.
questions and,
Comments.
Yeah, we
you
could
know,
score
I
it
mean, everyone can
ourselves.
have their own little score in
Yeah,
their
right,
head, you know, one through 5. You finish, the person finishes talking and you write down a 5 or write down a 1, you
And we'll
know.
scribble their name on the top of the thing, so it stays together. And,
Yeah.
you know, this would be our own internal note.
Do we need to take a vote to approve these questions?
To improve these questions with the addition of one about the resume, you know, applicant, specific to the, question specific to
Yeah,
the resume.
Give me the wording on that again.
I
if you
just
don't
had,
mind.
questions specific to the applicant's resume, such as employment gaps, reasons for leaving a position, things you liked about a particular position you were in, things like that.
And I would say and/or question asking for clarification or additional information that may come up during the interview.
Right, yeah.
I'll make that motion, that we adopt the Town Administrator Screening Committee candidate questions as they're written, with the addition of your suggestion, Mr. Chairman, for questions specific to the applicant resume, Jen's addition for whatever may come up in that, pertinent to that individual, and I think we need
And
to add.
Adam Holmes' questions.
Yes, and Craig's is already on here, so I don't need to add that.
That's
And
right.
Adam's
That's
questions. And that you and Craig and Pat want to put these in
And
the,
the one additional for Pat's question as well.
yeah, and put these
Yes.
in their regular order and stuff, and we'll adopt them that way.
I'll second that.
I'm not going to ask you to read it back, Sheldon.
Okay, good.
Make it sound good.
So we have a motion, which I won't repeat, to accept the the questions, rather, as they are presented, including the additions that Craig added, and to add a question allowing for questions about, that are specific to an applicant's resume, and to add Adam Holmes' questions as well, as he has put in an email to me today. And any discussion? All those in favor? Need a roll call?
We don't
No,
actually.
we don't. All those in favor of the motion?
All right,
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Very good. Okay, so I believe we've discussed interview scheduling, core standard questions, topics not reasonably anticipated. I don't have any. Committee member comments?
Got One question, Tom, going back to the interview scheduling. How much time are we gonna allow each candidate?
Good question. Good question. I was wondering about that today. I would say at least an hour.
At least an hour, yeah?
And if, you know, and safely, I would think you would want to allow two.
Yeah.
And I don't think you have to go beyond two. And I don't think you'll really even have to go beyond one, but
Hour and a half or so?
I was gonna
Yeah.
say 90 minutes
Yeah.
to 2 hours.
yeah, I would
there's a
agree.
lot of questions here,
A lot of
and there's
questions,
9
and-
people on the committee. That's
And
a
honestly, we
lot
don't
of,
wanna rush through this. I mean, this is
Right.
That's
that's a
true.
lot
Well,
of.
I've done it all just to get to this point, so.
In fact, I almost wonder, as no, it would be a huge inconvenience to this committee, but I almost wonder if it'd be better off to only schedule like one per meeting. And
So
just-
Well, that's what I'm gonna do.
If we're only gonna have one and it runs 2.5 hours because the person is very animated, then so be it. But the last thing we wanna have is somebody sitting outside the hallway tapping their toe because we said an hour and a half and it's 2 hours later.
Well, maybe I wasn't clear. What I intend right now, based on the numbers we have, I'm anticipating one interview a night, all of the interviews to occur in the last 2 weeks. So that gives us up to 10 interviews, which we're nowhere near that right now.
Perfect.
And then but there may be a lot of meetings in those last 2 weeks.
So be it.
And then if things pick up, I have got in 2 over the last 3 days, then we'll just have to adapt from there.
If this meeting room is booked for another meeting, is there another
Sure, we
room
could.
that's large enough to accommodate?
We could go down to room
Yeah,
4,
downstairs.
and, you know, it might not suit getting it put on Area 58,
Well,
but
it's
Wouldn't
an
have to,
executive
it would be
session.
that's
executive
not gonna
session.
control anything anyway.
Right.
Yeah, but even an open meeting, I would hesitate, you're right.
I wonder if
But you're
it,
supposed to still open,
Can they?
you know what I mean? You have to open in,
But there are 2 rooms down there, but the bigger, room 4 will more than accommodate it.
right.
then I wonder, through you, Mr. Chair, would it make sense to, given that we'd be looking to start interviews in potentially less than 2 weeks, should we try to start seeking availability of some candidates that we've already determined yes on?
We haven't got background checks.
So we determined we need the background checks to schedule the interview? I thought we just needed.
Which we were planning on, the plan was to do that next Thursday.
Okay.
By then, we've had some response to background checks. All the applicants have to be in by the very next day. And that would be really the only thing we, right now, on the agenda, except maybe approving minutes of the July 22nd meeting, or the executive session next Thursday.
Yeah, I'm just that potentially gives somebody, 3 or 4 days notice for an interview.
Right.
They're looking for a job, they can accommodate the
But if
request.
they're an active employee, they may have other commitments that they just can't move, so.
Could be, and we can,
That's the challenge of being a government
I agree with
municipality
Pat.
person.
we
You want the
can,
job, make yourself available.
we can adapt that by, I mean, there's a couple of Saturdays in there, and there's also 2 days of the next week, which would put us right on 30th and the 31st.
Yeah.
But I think that if you're calling someone on Friday, Friday the 13th, and saying you want to schedule an interview sometime in the next 10 or 14 days, they should be able to accommodate you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a
I
matter of
agree.
being able to accommodate them and accommodating at least 5 of us. It's a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle.
I hear you, but right now, I'd kind of like to see if someone answers our background check request. In particular, the one that has been out there the longest, we're hoping to get something by the end of this week. And then everyone else that we talked about tonight interviewing will get these, like tomorrow, and we'll ask for them to be in by the close of business on Tuesday.
Yeah, so I guess if we do receive the signed, the signed authorization for the background check, would we at that point then maybe ask them for their availability so that then at our perhaps next meeting, we could match that up to our availability and potentially schedule some?
I don't know if, maybe, I don't know, I mean,
Just an idea.
we're not gonna have meetings, you know what I mean? What you're saying that if I should start, you want me to start scheduling these? I can't schedule them, because I don't know when people
Well,
are
no, I
available.
was more of saying, like, if candidate A, signed the authorization for the background, so now the background's happening, would we then ask HR to say, please, provide us your availability between this date and this date, what would suit them best?
Yeah, well, I can
They
do
said,
that.
okay, I could come these 3 nights, so then next Thursday, we can say, okay, candidate A is available these 3 nights.
That's a good
Oh,
point.
all of us are available this night too, now that one's scheduled.
Yeah,
Like,
that's- That's good.
I'm just thinking it might make it go a little smoother than we're all available, but then they're not, or,
That's fine.
I've
We-
just,
we'll-
I've
we
been
can try- we
scheduling a
can-
lot of interviews over
we-
the last 3 weeks at
yeah,
my
I know,
other
I
job,
know.
so I just know what it, and that's with just 2.
I mean, it's gonna be hard, though, asking them their availability, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that's all.
But
that-
beyond that, knowing everyone else's availability, there's no way it's gonna be done before.
Yes, no, I was just saying to maybe gather the candidate's availability so that when we
Right.
meet again,
Yes,
we can
Yes.
sync up.
yes, and right. And we're not gonna be waiting for the results of any background checks. We don't have time for that. Just that they signed us a couple of forms so that we can do, so that HR can do a check on.
Perfect, yep.
So the way it stands right now is we've got 4 potential candidates for interview. Is that right?
Correct.
Uh,
I wasn't gonna do a lot of these counts in public, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
just because that,
My fault. We are in public. Sorry.
but the number, I guess, is not, oh yeah, we have the 2, 3, we have 4. You're right.
Okay.
And 1 more to potentially review next week.
What's that?
Plus the 1 more to potentially review and any more that may come in, right?
Right, that's right, yeah, no, the one, I don't, the one I quickly looked at it, and I don't think it's, probably going to be viewed
Okay.
positively. But I don't know. Okay, are there any other committee member comments or anything?
Motion to adjourn.
I would just add a comment that I appreciate all the work that you've put into this, Tom, and Chief Weston, I appreciate the
thank
work
you.
you did on the interview questions, that was greatly appreciated.
I appreciate everyone being so conscientious about getting in and picking up copies of them. I realize it's not the most convenient way to do it, but I really want to protect the confidentiality, and I think this is the only best way to do it in my mind, so. But everyone's been very good about working together. Good. It's been, I think, to this point, certainly an effective committee. So we have a motion. Has the motion to adjourn been seconded?
I'll second.
All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.